Welcome back to Real Estate 101. Today we're going to continue our discussion on home renovations and talk a little bit about custom homes. And I'm pleased to be joined once again by Daniel Ott of White Willow Design. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, Dan. So if somebody wants a new home, what are their options?
So when we're talking a new home to them, there's two ends of the spectrum for this. One would be extensively renovating an existing dwelling to make it your own, and that could be with additions and other things. And the other is starting from scratch on a new lot with a new building.
Okay. Is there anything in between?
Yes, which is actually my preferred method. You buy an existing home on an existing lot, tear it down, and build something new.
Okay. What are the benefits of starting from scratch?
The biggest one is creative freedom. When you have a renovation going on, you are restricted by so many things. But when we start from scratch, the sky's the limit. We have to stay within, physical laws of gravity and such things and municipal bylaws. But within those parameters, we can do almost anything.
Okay. So what type of restrictions are there on, existing homes or existing lots?
So when we're talking about an existing building, we have the restrictions of the space that is the interior space that's there. One of the biggest ones being ceiling heights. If you're going to be renovating a home, it's most likely going to be between 30 and 60 years old, and all those houses have 8-foot ceilings. There is no way to get a 9-foot ceiling when you're renovating, aside from tearing a whole bunch of the house down and starting over again. Then we have the structural limitations of where all the bearing walls are and things, and we have to put beams in and posts in, and then you have to design around that. So sometimes we have to be quite creative in being able to design around it to make a renovation actually get out of it what we want. When we're talking about an existing lot, we have restrictions of size of the property. For one, most lots in town are going to be smaller than the ones out of town, so we can only build to a certain size and stay within the bylaws of how close to the property lines we can go.
Right.
And we also have the restrictions of the neighboring houses. You can't build something that doesn't belong in the neighborhood. And we're not talking design style, we're talking design size. There's usually different bylaws, but they generally get summed up in the word monster home. You can't build a monster home amidst a whole bunch of older little bungalows.
Okay, so are there large cost differences between renovating and building new?
Yes, but which way it goes depends on the project. So it's almost a washout depending upon which way you go. Now, we delved a little bit into this before when we talked about bearing walls and how this relates into the labor costs between renovating and building new. So when we talk about bearing walls, we talked about if we take it out and we put a beam in place and posts and footings in the basement, and then you're replacing the ceiling and the insulation, doing electrical anyways, it's all renovating.
Right.
But if we just start by taking the whole roof off and putting new truss roof in, we're basically just that little section. We're not renovating, we're building new. And the labor costs are cut, and in so doing, you get a nicer project for about the same cost. The same principle applies when we go slightly larger, whether we're talking a rear addition or that gets knocked down and rebuilt, or right up to a whole house. Say you have a bungalow, you want 9-foot ceilings, you knock it down, you start over. If we have a wall that no longer has a roof on it, for one, and we want to move windows around, we're sitting there moving this stud over and that stud over and putting windows in. We have a lot of labor costs in making it work there. But if you just knock the wall down and build it new, it's actually easier, faster, and usually that means slightly cheaper.
Right. Okay, so are there any other costs?
There's all the municipal costs that are involved in building new as opposed to renovating.
All right, so what kind of municipal costs are there?
So when you're renovating, everything gets grandfather claused in. It's already existing. Even if you're redoing parts of it, it's already there. When we take a wall and we knock it down and then we want to build it up again, and that's on the side property line, let's say, if according to new bylaws it's too close to the property line, if we moved windows around in it, we'd be okay. We're all grandfather claused in. But if we knock it down and we build it back up in the same spot, we're now not allowed to do it. So we have to go for what is called a minor variance, and we've gone over that before in other episodes.
Yep.
And it's in this sort of situation, it's almost guaranteed to be approved, but you still have to go through the process, and there's still those costs involved. One of the biggest ones is development charges. So if you're starting with a new property, or if you have an existing lot, but a house has been torn down and it's been a few years, and that number of years will differ from place to place, you now have new development charges for that property. In the city of Burlington, Ontario alone, those charges are going up by almost $11,000 starting January 1st, 2017.
Oh.
So we're talking a jump from about $25,000 to $35,000. And that's quite a jump, and that's just one city alone. So you've got those costs.
All right. Okay, so what about if you have a rural property?
Great question, Joe. A lot of people find the lots in town to be too small. So they want to build a big house. They go out to the country and they buy a bigger property. But with that comes some other costs that may not have been thought of. In town, we have service connections. Mainly your water and your sewer, but you also have your electrical. If you're tearing down and rebuilding, you might have to do new service connections, but it's still relatively inexpensive, if you will. If 15 to 20,000, you've got all new sewer connections, water connections, your electrical connection. Out in the country, however, we're going to be talking about a septic. The septic system alone, especially the reason people go out there is to build a bigger home, the septic system alone can be 30 to 40,000. And then we have the electrical connections. You have a big property, you want to put your house farther back from the road. Well, now we need to put actual hydro poles along the driveway in order to get the hydro back there.
Right.
So that comes as quite a cost. You don't have municipal water hookup all the time, so now we have to drill a well. Depending upon where you are, how deep you have to go, that may cost a lot more as well.
Okay, so what about planning costs?
Regardless of whether you're going to be doing it in a new building on a new lot, or you're rebuilding on an existing lot, or you're extensively renovating, the planning costs as far as design goes are going to be similar. So we're going to have our architectural drawings and our structural drawings and our electrical and our mechanical drawings. You've got your interior design of your bathrooms, your kitchens, and your millwork, and all of that. And then the fees, of course, for being able to handle all the city processes, which are going to be similar. Mm-hmm. That's going to be about $50,000, maybe more, depending on which design firms you go with. But when we start adding in the municipal costs of building on a new lot, of all those development charges and all the rest of it, we're going to be adding at least $50,000, $60,000 on top of that. So my biggest suggestion is definitely to buy an existing home on an existing lot. And you may pay more because there's already a house there. But then you save on the development charges and all the rest of that. And it's an easier process all around.
Okay, so do you have any good news or anything that maybe could save them some money?
Absolutely. When you are done this whole process, you're going to be left with a beautiful home. It's going to be custom built for you, and your family and how you function. And you're not going to be starting with something that was someone else's idea and is just revamped to try to make it fit your lifestyle. It's going to be something that was designed for your lifestyle. And you're going to live there for many years to come, and you're going to enjoy it. And if done properly, you should be able to recoup any of those costs if you ever want to sell it again.
All right, Dan, great stuff. For people watching and listening who may want to get in touch, how can they reach you?
They can email me, info@whitewillowdesign.ca, or call me directly, 905-220-9419.
All right, Dan, thanks for coming on today's show.
Thanks, Joe.
So there you have it. If you're looking for more information on custom homes, get in contact with Daniel Ott of White Willow Design. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, and share our videos. I'm Joe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.